As you can see, we've got two Jeeps here. Well, we have three Jeeps, but we've got two XJs here. We've got a Hawaiian one and a Quebec one. Although different parts of the world, they have a couple of things in common. And one of the things they have in common is water crossings. And in order to do that without damaging your differential, you really need a proper axle breather system. So I'm going to show you what the common problem is on these Jeep XJs, especially on the front axle when it comes to their breather. So what you're going to need to do this job is some 5/16 hose. You can use some 5/16 vent hose, 5/16 fuel line. This is 5/16 transmission cooler line here. You're going to need this Dorman part number, this vent. This is a transmission case vent, part number 14689. And you're going to need this Rugged Ridge part number 16561.01, an axle breather for a Dana 30, 35, or 44. It says from 72 to 18 Jeep models. So that's this little piece right here. Now this piece, you can either put a hose on it, or you can put this cap on it right here, and we're going to show you that. So if you put this little cap right here, then it'll be kind of like this, but we're going to put a hose on this. The way these axle vents work is when the fluid and the differential heats up, the pressure increases, so air has to expand some way. If you didn't have a vent, it would leak out of your differential cover, it would leak out of your wheel seals, but with a vent, it goes up and escapes out into the atmosphere. But the opposite of that is, let's say you have a real hot fluid in here and your air is escaping as normal, but when you hit some cold water, it contracts, so then it sucks air in. So this tube is meant to suck and to vent. But if you didn't have that, it would suck air and water through your gaskets, through your wheel seals, so forth and so on. So that's the purpose of this vent. So on the rear of the Hawaiian Jeep here, on the rear diff, you've got the breather tube, which is right here. And then it goes all the way up, and it connects into the frame right here. So you see where it goes into the axle, and there's your pumpkin right here. So what this does is that if you submerge this back axle in water, it's not going to suck in any air. And it also won't suck in any water. Now, as far as the front goes on the top, you can actually see the end of the breather here. So this goes all the way down to your front differential. All right, that's the Hawaiian Jeep, the Quebec Jeep, same thing. You'll see it here. Now, the problem with these front vents is not that it's up real high, because this is good. Unlike the back vent, which is real down low, the front vent goes all the way up here. But the problem is at the bottom, it rubs on the frame or on one of the control arms and tends to damage it. So I'm going to show you that. You can see this right here. This goes right into the diff. Okay, so this is your vent. It's at the top. If you're looking from the rear, it's at the top left of the diff. So, but I'm going to show you where it rubs. Okay, so now look how chewed up this is. This is the one that I'm not replacing today, although I will. And the reason this gets all chewed up is because it's rubbing on the control arm right there and just rattling all around. So I'm going to show you the Hawaiian Jeep, and that it is completely missing. All right, so now we're under the Hawaiian Jeep, and as you can see, there's a hole there. It's completely missing, so I'm going to show you what you need to repair that. And look, this is what's left of it right here. So it's reminiscent. It looks like the factory put this special protective coating on it to keep that from happening, but it didn't work too well. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a new one in there and maybe route it a little bit different way to keep that from happening again. First thing I want to do is clean all the crud from around it. Sprayed a little super clean degreaser. So it seems to be working okay, I guess. Might be hard to see, but seems to be a little spillage of some gear oil, so we have to check the fluid, the gear oil fluid, when we're done with this. But what I was telling you earlier, if this pumpkin heats up, and when it heats, it's got to let gases expand. The gases expand, and they need to be vented somewhere, because if they don't vent, they'll come out of your seals and mess your seals up. And then on the opposite of that, if you have hot oil in here and this gets dunked in cold water, then what happens is it's going to suck the air in, and if there's no vent, it's going to suck the air through all your seals and stuff, and of course get water in your differential, and that could cost you a pretty penny to fix. Okay, once you clean it, you can just tap that little piece in there. Very simple. And you can either put that little cap on that came with it, but if you do that, just remember that if your differential gets dunked, then it's going to suck in water. But it will work for the breather part. But we're not going to do that. We're going to actually hook a hose to it. Now this 5/16 hose is going to be a tight fit, but that's what you want. Once you do this, you probably won't even need any hose clamps on it. And to help slide this in a little bit, you might can spray a little silicone on it. All right, tight fit, but that's what you want. And instead of putting it in the differential and feeding it up, it's probably easier just to let gravity help you and just drop it down. So I'm gonna follow this path and drop it down a very similar path of the original one. All right, there's the old one. This is the new one here. So let's see here. Got it down here. Okay, that looks good. I don't think it's coming out. There's like a rubber grommet on here. Okay, now to prevent this from happening again, see, this control arm just chews these things up. So I'm going to try to find another route and maybe zip tie it to the frame to keep it away from this control arm. This control arm is constantly moving. All right, now that I've got it all ran up, see, I've got some excess here. There's the original one. I'm just going to probably put it up right here and cut it off and put my cap on so it will exit in the approximate original location. All right, you see this old one here. You can kind of see the top. I'm going to pull this thing out. There you go. This is what's left of the old one. I mean, I guess I could reuse this, but I have a new one. And I guess I could reuse this old sleeve. It looks like it's some type of heat resistant material. Let's see if it comes off. Oh yeah. So it's like the original part number, if you need that. I think I will try to slide that heat resistant shield over. You see how close this is to this exhaust manifold? So at least I'll get that heat resistance shield over the tube right here. Although this new tubing transmission cooler line is probably very heat resistant, but just extra precaution. I'm going to try to clean this heat shield up a little bit by cutting this fray end off right there. All right, that looks a little better. Okay, I just slid this old heat thing over the top, and I'm going to keep sliding it down until I hit the bottom. All right, as you see, I've got it slid down here, and I'm just going to attach it up against the firewall there. Okay, there's its final resting place with the vent cap on it. That is a tight fit on that vent cap, so I did use some of that. But so if you use 5/16 fuel line or transmission cooler line like I did, then you want to put a little silicone on that. But you do, believe me, you don't need a clamp on that. The original one didn't have a clamp either. It's not going to come out. And as you see, it's all routed down nice away from the exhaust manifold. Got the heat shield on it. And it is nice and out of the way of any moving parts going right into your diff. So last but not least, we do want to check the differential fluid level to make sure that we didn't lose any. Now, I already serviced this differential about a year ago, so we're going to see if it's lost any fluid. Let's see here. When these things, you see how the fluid's coming out? That means that there's plenty of fluid in there. I'll stick my finger in there, I'll feel it right there. It's looks pretty clean too, so let's get this back in there. Next time you underneath your Jeep changing the oil or whatever, check out the differential vents. Make sure that they're not missing and make sure that they're plugged into the right place and that those hoses don't have any holes in it. Because the last thing you want to do is get water sucked into your differential and cause you about $1,000 repair. So hope this helps and have a great weekend.